Ladies and gentlemen, this evening we are live for another edition of NASCAR 06 Total Team Control on the channel today. It is the NASCAR 06 Cup Series coming into play today in our Do It for Dale series, second to last race of the regular season at the California Speedway. A 500-mile California Speedway this time around. The first race here on the season was actually the second race on the schedule. It was not only a day race, but it was a 250-miler, one of the 50% races we had earlier in the year. This is 100%. Going to go the full distance tonight, and we are going to see who perhaps more drivers could be to lock themselves into the chase as well before the end of this race. Like and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content as we get into tonight's full race live stream, live realistic commentary today. Corey Freet, Cheyenne, R6, and others, welcome into the stream. I was a bit under the weather last night during the live stream. I was fine when I started the stream. We raced NASCAR 21 Ignition, and it was the round of 8 finale at Martinsville. Ended up being at least a pretty good points battle at the end. Martin Truex Jr. got the win and locked himself in, but our driver Ryan Blaney was able to get to the championship for virtue of points, just 8 points ahead of Kevin Harvick above the cutoff line. But I will say I was under the weather probably about the midway point yesterday, maybe a little bit before that. And I was kind of struggling to get to the end, and I wasn't as talkative compared to what I usually am with the live realistic commentary, probably for the entire second half of that race. So I apologize, but I just wasn't really feeling my best. But I will say I'm feeling a lot better today. Not so much in the morning, but as the day has progressed, I feel a lot better, and definitely better than what I felt last night. So we are going to get this race in, and we are going to get the race into its fullest, and the mental capability will be here tonight. I will not be choking away any wins, at least if I'm in position to win. Obviously, we don't know exactly how fast this car is based off of practice speed. I think it is a pretty fast number 8 Budweiser Chevrolet for Dale Jr., but is it fast enough to be able to make up 100 points on Carl Edwards in these last 2 races of the round? Well, we'll have to see, and we're about to get into qualifying here in this one. Billy Carjoy, Bentley Potts, and Patrick Chadley also welcome into the stream. And we'll see where Dale Jr. will qualify for the California 500 today at what is now known as the Auto Club Speedway. Tracker will be at the bottom of the screen. And we'll see. Do I think the 12 car can win tomorrow? I personally don't think so. He's not particularly good at Richmond throughout his career, although he has been good on the flatter tracks this year. Penske as a whole has been. So I think he can have a good run, but I don't think he's one of the favorites necessarily for tomorrow's race. No setup change from practice, and there were a little bit of modifications in practice as far as the setup goes compared to the setup that this 8 team had at the very beginning of the season, trying to tighten it up a bit. We saw the Busch Series race. Dale Jr. finished 13th a couple nights ago. Wants to have a better than 13th place finish today. He's going to have to put the pressure on Carl Edwards to win this regular season championship. 199 miles an hour into turn 1 with these Gen 4 cars at Auto Club, and that wasn't even in the draft. That was in qualifying alone right there. A lot of grip through turns 1 and 2. Junior kind of ran the middle line that time. It's where his car seems to grip up the best. It's going to give him a bit more straightaway speed than running all the way around the bottom, but it's not the shortest way around, which is usually what you would want for qualifying. Junior does get 2 laps to try and set the quick time. This is lap 1. And he is already very close to the pole this time by as they work their way to the start-finish line. Junior going to go down to the apron. 5th place on lap 1, 38.330. Will lap 2 be quicker? Took that shortcut at the line. Definitely going to plan on doing that again when he works his way back to the start-finish line this time around as well. So far, so good. Beast Mode Vader, Mark DeMars, Rod G, welcome into the stream also. Into turns 3 and 4, I will say lap 2 so far better than lap 1 for Dale Jr. Got a little tight in the middle of the corner that time, moved off that white line on the bottom of the racetrack, and now working his way back to the start-finish line again into the tri-oval, down to the apron, a little bit quicker on lap 2 of a 38.327 if I'm not mistaken. 267, excuse me. Couple thousandths of a second off from second place, about 10 thousandths of a second off a second, a little bit further behind the pole. But third is where Dale Jr. will qualify for tonight's race. What's the difficulty on? Difficulties on Legend on this game. Every series, every race on this game is on Legend difficulty, which is the hardest difficulty. Outsider, welcome into the stream. I did not get to see practice or qualifying today. I had a chance to, and I kind of forgot about it, to be completely honest. I think it might be going on right now, actually. If I'm not mistaken. I think he started at 5. But thanks for everybody tuning in here in the early going, and let's get this race underway. Yeah, Tony Stewart will be on the pole for this one also. Green flag is going to be in the air. Tony Stewart will lead the field to the green. Dale Jr. got a good launch initially off the start. Going to pull back in line as he realized he couldn't quite get from 3rd to 4th gear as quick as Tony Stewart. Scott Riggs, who qualified in 6th, tried to move down in front of Dale Jr. Jr. was already there. That costed Jr. a spot to Jimmy Johnson, who was able to get down to the bottom, but Dale Jr. to the inside into turn 3. Aggressive racing on lap 1 in the pack. Jr. up into the side of Scott Riggs and into the wall. Trouble on lap 1 for Dale Jr. as he moves down in front of Kyle Busch and others in the field. What happened there? Lap 1 trouble for the driver 2nd in the regular season standings. He got tight, kept going up the track, and he had nowhere to go with Scott Riggs on his outside. Oh, Mike Waltrip took a big hit in that, so did Sterling Marlin. And caution is out on lap 1. Not expecting that. Terrible way for Earnhardt to start this race. And he cannot pit for fuel or tires, and that was some pretty heavy damage to the race car on lap 1, and that is probably going to take quite a bit of speed out of it on a track where aerodynamics are very important. Track position going to be important as well. It's going to be hard to pass the leader on not in restarts today, and I think Tony Stewart was in the lead at the time of the caution. I have to go back and look at that. I know I got tight, but I feel like I also kind of got squeezed by the 10 car. And Junior was really flatlining it going into turn 3, not wanting to give up the inside. And probably should have just maybe lifted a little extra. I mean, no, Junior got tight. That was all Junior. He got tight, he tried to lift, and when he lifted, Riggs got to his outside, and he had nowhere to go, unfortunately. So, all the way to the back. And his teammate Michael Waltrip's back here as well. Green flag back in the air. Stewart will lead the first 4 laps then under caution today. Yeah, the car just got tight. It wasn't Riggs' fault. He was kind of an innocent bystander. I went back and looked at the replay a 3rd time there. And hopefully that's not going to mess the car up handling-wise too much, but that was a pretty good hit in the wall at a high-rated speed. Luckily, they weren't quite up to speed yet. Noah Hall, welcome into the stream. I mean, yeah, it just got tight. I was having to run laps in traffic, and I was prepared for the car maybe to be a little tight, but I was not expecting that, especially getting up to speed. And all that good track position for qualifying 3rd for Dale Jr. is gone, and what a nightmare California has been this week for the 8 team, well, I guess 81 in the Busch Series, but for Dale Jr. in general. 13th in the Busch race, lost points to Clint Boyer. I mean, what's going to happen here in this race? Can't afford to lose points to Edwards if he's going to want a shot to win the regular season title. As long as he's within 156 points, he'll have a shot at it still going into Richmond, but if he can cut that gap down a little bit, that would obviously be even more beneficial. Kenny Schrader trying to side draft Dale Jr. Jr. will get by Schrader now. You hope that this 8 car is not going to be too loose on the long run like he was in the Busch Series. No matter what they did to the 81 car in that Busch race, he was loose at the end of a run. We saw the AI being very aggressive in the Busch race. We're seeing that in this Cup race already as the 169 car went down the track to try to block Junior on the back straightaway. Junior went down to the apron and was able to power through 3 wide on the bottom through 3 and 4 to get around Shane Neal in the 169. Just going to have to learn to drive the car. I mean, I could see if I did that without practice or qualifying, but the fact that I practiced and qualified and still made that mistake on lap 1, that's going to be very frustrating for the A team. Marlin making a bad block now off the exit of turn 2. Of course, he had damage from that accident as well. Junior tight in turn 3, up the track again. My goodness, it just goes straight. And Junior into the side of Marlin and was on the brakes to try to keep from wrecking a second time. I don't think Marlin's going to be too happy with the 8 car, but it wasn't really his fault. It wasn't like he was trying to drive it in extraordinarily deep that time. It just gets so tight in turn 3 in traffic. Specifically when Dale Jr.'s on the inside of a car, it seems like in turn 3. If he's got a car in front of him and on his outside, he just can't make the corner. He's got clean air now, at least being far enough behind the rest of the field. It's crazy how straight the car goes up the racetrack. It's like the analog stick stuck to the right when I go into the corner, which I know it's not the case. At least it doesn't feel like it. It's only doing it in that end, so I know it's just the car. Train fan, welcome into the stream. Kurt Busch, by the way, did take the lead away from Tony Stewart initially on that restart. Kurt Busch has led every green flag lap so far. He saw the 8 car get tight that time, too. There's a sweet spot he's going to have to try to find in turns 3 and 4 for grip, that's for certain. Might as well take our first field pass of the day. All Dale Jr.'s further towards the back. And we will take a look at Martin Truex Jr. in the 1 car right now. Truex in the 19th place position, looking to cross over Boris Said for a spot. Truex able to grip the bottom up. Mike Bliss trying to block Truex. Martin Truex Jr. and Michael Waltrip for DEI, both eliminated from possible chase contention. The bold move down to the apron in 1 and 2 for Truex, but he was able to hang on to the race car. And in the process, looking to make the pass. 2 passes at that, as he's all clear into turn 3. And the handling in this 1 car is a lot better than the 8. Sure, that damage isn't going to help the handling and probably going to make Dale Jr.'s car even tighter as well. Truex almost to the inside of Ricky Rudd. Kenseth going down to block the 21 car now into turn 1. 2 car breakaway at the very front of the field. Of course, Kurt Busch leading. Not sure if that's Stewart behind him or potentially somebody else. Look how aggressive the AI are in this race already. Ricky Rudd's trying to block top to bottom right now with Truex. Truex gets into him. Billy Kramer, welcome into the stream. Might be Jimmy Johnson in second place. There's a good chance. It's tough to tell what color the car is from this far back, though, too. No, I see Jimmy Johnson in 4th. Potentially side by side for the lead, though, off turn 4. Rusty Wallace blocking off Mark Martin in the 6th. Truex going to clear the 6 car. Into turns 1 and 2 he goes. Going to clear Rusty Wallace for a position as well, up to 12th. Johnson stuck on the outside. Looks like Greg Biffle will get around him for a spot. Side by side between Kyle Busch, Matt Kenseth. Busch got a piece of the accident in that last wreck as well. Truex down to the bottom into turns 3 and 4. A couple cars moving way off the bottom while Truex is down on the apron in the middle of the corner. 3 wide off the exit of turn 4 now. Labonte down low to try to block the 1. Truex up to 8th. We'll go back to Michael Waltrip for the first time today. See what he is at. And right now, Waltrip in 33rd. And taking a bold move into turn 1. Gets it to stick 3 wide. Passing both Travis Quaffle and I think Scott Riggs. Wade Selensky and Toxic Punk Young Boy, welcome into the stream. Waltrip already rocketing through the field up to 29th. Remember, he was in 42nd on that last restart at lap 4. 13 laps, he's already gained 14 positions now. Actually, this is the 10 car of Riggs just up ahead. I'll say Waltrip's car feels a lot looser than Truex's car. This is fast if he can hang on to it. Waltrip looking to the inside of Jeff Green right now, side by side between the 43 and the 15. And Jeff Green nearly turns Michael Waltrip in the middle of the corner. I don't know how Waltrip held on to that car as well as he did. He didn't actually get into the wall till the very exit of the corner. Green hit him right on that right rear corner panel, and then he just drives right through Scott Riggs. Get back to 26th. That was wild. Jeff Green, a rival of Michael Waltrip. I think Dale Jr.'s caught the back of the field now, maybe passing cars potentially. We'll swap back to Dale Jr. after another lap of racing with this 15 car. Tony Stewart also back to the lead. Led his first green flag lap of the race that last time by after getting by Kurt Busch. Both Stewart and Busch each have one win so far this season. Waltrip all the way on the apron through 3 and 4. That's not going to work well for him. Sliding sideways, lost all his momentum when he was trying to take it 3 wide. We'll go back to Dale Jr. now at the rear of the field. He's passed a couple cars and has made his way back up to 38th and currently trying to get by Sterling Marlin in the 40. They really crowd you in the middle of the corner, though, and not really giving anybody any room to try and make passes. Marlin with a big block, and he was not clear. Junior to the inside of Marlin into turn 3, hoping his car doesn't get extremely tight this time. It does not. He's got a big run as well on the front stretch. 3 wide into the trioval. Junior getting squeezed in 1 and 2. Contact up the track and into the wall hard again for the 149. That time he got tight that time, but he really did get crowded. That wasn't as much Junior's fault as what it was the 149 car. He was really hanging on that right rear corner panel, and Junior came off the bottom just a tad. But he had to because of how flat he got ran into the corner by the car on his outside. It's getting ridiculous. Right back to 41st again. It has been a struggle from the get-go, really since lap 1 for Dale Jr. He won the Busch race in dominating fashion at Richmond, so he would like to go back there for this Cup race, which is the final race of the regular season for the Cup Series. But again, you have to get through the 500 miles tonight first. And he's struggling to get through the first 50 right now. I mean, he's taking a couple big hits into the wall already, and you wonder how damaged the car is as far as potentially DNFing. He has DNF'd to 2 races this season, that's it. And one of them was on the last 2-mile racetrack just a couple races ago at Michigan. I think Jimmy Johnson, welcome into the stream. You are in second place. I think Kurt Busch is in second, I'd have to imagine. Dale Jr. 12.1, now 12.2 seconds off the lead as well. We had that one caution on lap 1. It's the only yellow of the race so far. Top 4 probably realistically have a shot at the regular season championship yet. Mainly the top 3 of Carl Edwards, Dale Jr., and Jeff Gordon. And speaking of Carl Edwards, who comes in with the points lead, he has taken the lead off turn 2 from Tony Stewart. And Edwards is looking to lead his first lap of the race, which would get him 5 bonus points. And Jr., who qualified 3rd, has spent almost the majority of this race outside the top 40. It's a 500-mile race, though. It's a really long one. Can't count him out. We got one car blowing up on the bottom of the racetrack. I couldn't tell who that was. It looked like it might have been Kevin Harvick in the 29 car. And if it was Kevin Harvick, that is going to hurt his chances of trying to make it to the chase. He came in 12th in points below the cutoff line. And a DNF would pretty much eliminate him, for all intents and purposes, from trying to make it into the chase. Harvick had 1 win this year, and it was way back towards the beginning of the season. Scott Riggs' son starting 4th tonight. Yeah, he finished 7th at IRP a couple weeks ago as well. Had a great run. And his debut, nonetheless. Running the draft for Earnhardt into turns 1 and 2. Gonna get underneath the 169 car. He's got to get around cars quick. He's gonna try to be a little more patient now just because he's had terrible luck passing cars, but when you get the run like he has again on the 08 of Shane Meal, Meal's gonna give Earnhardt a lot of room though through 3 and 4 and allow for Dale Jr. to get around him fairly easily, so Jr. passes 2 cars that lap up to 38th. Need to get a strategy. Yeah, I mean, the problem is it's really hard to go off strategy in this kind of a race where we know it's likely going to be a fuel mileage race today, even with the caution we had because it was only on lap 1. Unless we get a caution in the middle of, you know, the 50 lap markers in this race today, it is going to end up being a fuel mileage race. And these drivers are going to probably struggle trying to get 50 laps out of their full tank of gas. Really low off turn 4 goes Earnhardt. Had the grip to get there as he's underneath John Andretti, who actually won the last 2-mile racetrack at Michigan 2 races ago. On fuel mileage as well. Into turns 1 and 2. Earnhardt underneath of the 00 of Kenny Walls. Got a little tight, kept it off of him though, and clears him off turn 2. Managed the throttle well enough that he was able to keep it off the Aaron's Dream Machine to his outside. Trey's rail fanning, welcome into the stream. Terry Labonte now to the inside of Kenny Schrader. Big dive into the corner by Kenny Wallace in the 00. Earnhardt getting tight in that dirty air, and Wallace going to get underneath him. Massive run for Dale Jr., though, in line on the outside. Gets the run off the banking to the corner. He side drafts Kenny Schrader and drafts right behind the 44 of Terry Labonte. And Jr.'s able to get by Schrader on the outside. Cuts down to the bottom where there's clean air going into 1 and 2, and he gets by Terry Labonte, hooked to that white line. So that was a well-done job by Dale Jr. to get by Schrader. He let the car get tight through 3 and 4. He drifted up to the outside, but had the run off the banking of the corner and also had drafting help with Labonte and the Kellogg Chevrolet in front of him. And he was able to shoot down to the inside by the time he got into turn 1, clearing the Schwann's 49 car, and in the process getting underneath and getting around Terry Labonte through 1 and 2. Yeah, so Kevin Harvick, I believe, is the car that blew an engine. So put an X on him trying to make the chase now. And it's down to just 3 drivers outside the cutoff line who still mathematically would have a shot to point their way in going into the next race. Unless one of the cars inside the cutoff line on the bubble, mainly a Bobby Labonte or a Kurt Busch, if they DNF today, then Harvick would likely still have a chance at least. But that would be the only way he'd have a shot going into Richmond. Jr. going down to the apron through the tri-oval. By the way, he just went past halfway on fuel a couple laps ago. So he's pacing pretty well right now. I mean, that caution might have allowed for everybody to make it easily on 4 stops today. So maybe strategy has gone out the window with the caution. It's possible. We had a fuel mileage race in California earlier this year, but remember, that was a 50% race. With this one being a 100%er, it's a little bit different. It's actually as high in the running order Dale Jr. has been since really at all in this race, considering lap 1 was where he got in that accident, the only caution of the day. 54 laps, I do believe. Yeah, likely with the caution, that's probably going to be the case. Junior far enough back to not be in dirty air that time in 3 and 4. And clean air, this car feels perfect, and it feels fast. So if Dale Jr. can get track position at any point in time in this race today, I think he can be a car to beat, but he'd have to get there first. I mean, this far back in the pack, on a track that's this tough to pass when cars get strung out. I mean, if you're in the draft, it's more possible. But on longer green flag runs, you usually don't see that at California. Yeah, Edwards has been out in front for a few laps now. Dale Jr. going to peek underneath the 45 car. Kyle Petty. Petty really crowds Earnhardt in the middle of the corner, trying to side draft him, but Petty will still get cleared off turn 4. Scott Wimmer's got a nice little run underneath the 40 car. Sterling Marlin. Dale Jr. to the inside of Wimmer. 3 wide right now between the 822 and the 40 into turn 1. Jr. down on the apron a little bit. Gets loose into Wimmer. Wimmer up into the 40 of Marlin. How did they not wreck there? That was actually impressive that Wimmer held on to that car that he did. Dale Jr. was pinched all the way in the bottom. He took the risk going 3 wide to the inside, and Wimmer did not give him any room. They did not wreck, and now Marlin is pinching the 8 car off just a little bit, but Jr. will clear him through 3 and 4. And it does seem as if Dale Jr. may be a little tighter at 3 and 4 than 1 and 2, but 1 and 2 is where he got up into Wimmer that last corner. And now he's on the inside of Wimmer again, side drafting him, trying to give himself a little more room into 1 and 2 this time. Junior down on the bottom, and they were not 3 wide, so Wimmer did give him the room he needed, and Junior's up to 31st. Hi, Stephen King, 92, welcome to the stream. Let's call you Zach tonight. All right, well, welcome to the stream, Zach. Junior does seem like he's faster and cleaner than the 99 of Carl Edwards, but when he's trying to catch and pass cars, specifically in the middle of the corner, he loses a lot of time to Edwards. I mentioned Scott Riggs probably isn't too happy with Dale Jr. right now. That seems like it is the case after the lap 1 accident between the 2 cars. Riggs still a couple spots ahead of Earnhardt yet, but Dale Jr. slowly closing in. Trying to make sure this 8 car is not going to get extremely loose on the long run, because he's obviously worn out the tires quite a bit with that lap 1 accident spinning into the outside wall. Also had contact with a few other cars as well in the course of the run. Casey Mears looking to make a pass for position on the 11 of Jason Leffler. Leffler Mears side by side off the exit of turn 4. Dale Jr. in the draft right now. Leffler on the outside lane. Riggs down low to try and block Casey Mears. Back to the outside in front of Leffler, and Mears is going to get to the inside of Riggs into 1 and 2. Dale Jr. underneath Leffler. Through 1 and 2, he's got a massive run, trying to quickly get to the inside of the 10 car of Scott Riggs. He's in the draft right now with the 41 car of Casey Mears. He's hoping he can pull by Riggs without Riggs taking a swing at him, and that is going to be the case. So Dale Jr. has cleared Scott Riggs for 29th. Trying to get around the 41 of Mears. Mears trying to block. Dale Jr. might get underneath him this time. Nope, not quite. Leffler will also get around Riggs on the front stretch. Dale Jr. down low underneath Casey Mears. Off turn 2, back straightaway. Mears pinches Earnhardt. Earnhardt trying to side draft the 41. Into turn 3, and Jr.'s going to have to sit behind Mears again. Yeah, indeed. Rest in peace, Jason Leffler. Again, Jr. to the inside of the 41. He's desperately trying to side draft him in the middle of the corner. Casey Mears just has a little bit more straightaway speed in his Dodge versus the 8 of Dale Jr. in his Chevrolet with all the damage Jr. endured in that lap 1 accident. It's got to be the difference maker with Mears also having clean air in front of him right now. Look at him just blocking Dale Jr. desperately. Trying to get Mears up off the bottom lane. Can't do it. Again, Jr. to the inside, off turn 4. Side drafts Casey Mears. Still can't get around him. Jr. trying to back up turn 3. Mears drove it in way too deep, went a little bit wide in the middle of the corner. Jr. trying to power down. He is getting a little loose as he was on the apron. That's going to cut his speed off on the front stretch now, and he can't get around the 41. He's using his tires up quite a bit. Luckily, they're towards the end of the run right now, so Jr. can maybe afford it a little more versus early in the run. Early in the run, it might be easier to get around the 41 car. Who knows? At this rate. Jr. finally under Mears in the middle of the corner. And Dale Jr. will clear the 41 car off turn 4 for 28th. That took a lot of laps for him to get by the 41 car. Mears not close enough behind the 8 to get Jr. any sort of arrow loose either. We'll see when the drivers will hit pit road for the first time today. We are at lap 44, coming to lap 45 this time by. Jr. might have overdrove the entrance to turn 3. Not too terrible. I believe Jeff Green in the 43 car is the next car in front of him. He's getting a little bit of draft off of him right now. Runs that middle to upper curve through 1 and 2. A little bit higher than Green. And being in the draft behind the 43 car in the back straightaway might allow for Dale Jr. to carry even more speed into turn 3. Now he runs just a tad lower than Green. He's really hooked that white line. Great corner by Dale Earnhardt Jr. Can't quite get to the inside of Jeff Green yet. 38.271 that last lap for Earnhardt. Almost as quick as what he ran in qualifying. Jr. pulling out of line. Green's got drafting help in front of him from Travis Quaffle, the 77 for Penske. But Earnhardt makes the pass on Green through 3 and 4 anyway. Slides up in line and is trying to close on Travis Quaffle. Quaffle leaving a lot of bottom open though into turns 1 and 2. And that allows for Earnhardt to get underneath the 77. A little contact with the 2 cars just up in front of these two that are battling for 26th. Jr. with the advantage down low. Quaffle on the outside. Earnhardt drove it in deep into 3 and 4. Goes up the track. Almost slides into the 77. Slide job. Really shut the door on the 77 of Quaffle. Now has to go back down the track to try and block the 43 of Jeff Green and protect that inside lane going into turn 1. which Earnhardt looks like he'll do successfully. And still hits his marks through 1 and 2 in the process. Green will get by Quaffle and clear him off turn 2 for 27th. Well, Dale Jr. goes from 42nd on the restart to 26th in about the first 47 laps. Carl Edwards onto pit road this time. Martin Truex Jr. in as well, both inside the top 10. And we got some other drivers. Edwards, of course, pitting from the lead. That will give Dale Jarrett his first lead of the race. 5 bonus points for Jarrett. He is not going to make it to the chase this season in that 88 UPS Ford. No Torres, welcome to the stream. Junior has left sides down to the apron through 1 and 2. Never got loose that time, even on older tires. I will say the long run speed is still in this 8 car. It's not as good as the short run, but it's still pretty good. Big block by Ricky Rudd. I believe on board set in the 36 in front of him. Rudd might be coming to pit road as a result. He will. And Dale Jr. will also get underneath Said. All these cars pitting before lap 50, likely not going to be able to make it on fuel all the way to the very end of this race on just 4 stops. Junior gets by, Said for 13th. Michael Waltrip still hasn't pit yet and is still out in front of the 8 of Dale Jr. Jarrett's still winless on the season as well. This could be his best opportunity to get a win before the season is done. The way things are running right now. There's still another super speedway race at Talladega where he actually got his final career win in his NASCAR Cup Series career. Lap 51 at the line. Right rear starting to wear out on Dale Jr.'s race car just a little bit at this point in the run now. Only 1 car pitted in front of Dale Jr. that last lap. Closing in on the 25 car, Brian Vickers in front of him. Tony Stewart back in the lead, so Dale Jarrett must have just pitted from the lead that time by. Vickers down low to try and block Earnhardt. Junior to the inside of Vickers in 1 and 2. Junior clips the apron a bit through 1 and 2. He's getting really loose. And he's going to go back up the racetrack. Tags the wall just a bit. Luckily, Boris Said slowed down to keep from hitting the back of the 8 car. Got wildly loose in turns 1 and 2 that time. And the reason why he got that loose is strictly because he was down on the apron in the middle of the corner. Going to stay out as the leaders are all on pit road right now. So hopefully he can get 5 bonus points and then he'll pit. Junior just overdrove the corner. He was way too far down to the bottom of the track by the time he got to the exit of turn 2 when he was underneath Vickers. That's why he got loose. So that next lap by, he didn't get very loose either. Just about overcorrected the car back up the track in front of the 36 rather of Said. Dale Jr. will pit this time by, but he should be able to lead a lap under pit road. Got to get down to 70 miles an hour and does. 4 tires and fuel, no adjustments for Dale Jr. This is his first stop of the day. He's hoping he can get 5 bonus points for leading a lap. Yep, so that is exactly why he stayed out. He didn't lead on the track, but he did lead 1 lap to get 5 bonus points on pit road that time. So that's why Dale Jr. stayed out that extra lap compared to everybody else, and now he's into pit. I will say, I don't run the apron intentionally unless I'm like carrying a big run on the front stretch, but in the corners I don't intentionally touch it. I just get a little too aggressive when I get a run on a car. I get underneath the car and think I'm faster than him and try to pass him. It's definitely being too aggressive, but it's not my full intention going into the corner to try to carry that kind of speed that far down on the track. Dale Jr. getting up to speed right now, and he'll be back in the 31st place position. Yeah, I lightly grazed the wall at the right rear corner panel. Luckily, it wasn't anything too major. Dale Jarrett cycles back to the lead, so he stayed out at least a lap or two longer than Carl Edwards and still cycles out in front of him. That was very impressive by that 88 team, how fast of a pit stop they had. Is Dale Jarrett the guy to beat? Well, he's got Carl Edwards battling him for position. Edwards will actually lead this lap at the start-finish line, which is not good. If Edwards leads the most laps, it's less of a chance Dale Jr. is going to have of winning the regular season championship anyway. If Edwards just gets 2 top 10s, regardless of where Dale Jr. finishes, Edwards is going to win the regular season title. Even if Jr. were to get 2 max points days here, these final 2 races. We'll contact with Casey Mears. Mears has not been giving Dale Jr. a lot of room on the racetrack right now, and Jr.'s trying to run him up the track in the tri-oval a little bit. Jr. will get around him in 1 and 2 for 29th. Gonna alternate through the different camera angles for the first time in the race today. About a dozen laps. Dale Jr.'s 18.4 seconds off the race lead right now. Definitely as far back as he has been in the race so far today. Trying to get a draft off the 3 cars in front of him. Warsack going to get passed by Quapple and Marlin through turns 1 and 2. Jr. hopping up back into that outside, at least down the back straightaway to draft behind Sed. Marlin clears Sed into turns 3 and 4. Jr. drove it in deep. Wasn't care if he moved up the track a little bit that time, knowing there wasn't anybody to his outside. Carries quite a bit of speed off corner exit. He's got a run on Sed right now in the tri-oval. Now Sterling Marlin trying to get by the 77 of Quaffle as well. "20 questions and twist for trivia." I don't plan on that. That would definitely be a twist, though. Dale Jr. fighting to get underneath Sed off turn 4. And he's got a bit of a run underneath him. Trying to stay hooked to that white line in the middle of turns 1 and 2. And that is going to allow him to get by the 40 car of Sterling Marlin, all clear off turn 2 for 26th. So Edwards battled initially. Jarrett was out in the lead after green flag pit stops, but now Edwards has taken it back again. No adjustment changes for Dale Jr. during that pit stop. He felt the handling of his car is pretty good, even on the longer runs. Just overdrove it that one time. A little too low off the exit of turn 2, which caused him to slide sideways, but he was able to catch the car. And that was even after abusing his tires at that lap 1 accident, which is still the only caution of the day so far. Blaney qualified 10th, Truex qualified 6th. I'm just hoping Blaney can get stage points and get a top 10, because I think he'll lose points to Truex tomorrow. He's just got to make sure he doesn't lose too many. Jason Leffler blocking Dale Jr. that time. Through turns 3 and 4. Earnhardt going to get to the inside of Leffler now, side by side for position. As they side draft each other through the tri-oval and down into turns 1 and 2 they go. Junior hits his marks through 1 and 2. It clears Leffler off the exit. Up to 25th. Quite a big gap before the 24th place car up ahead for Earnhardt, so he's got more clean air to work with. Derek Booth, welcome into the stream. Blaney hit the wall slightly in qualifying, though. I mean, if they feel it's going to mess the car up, they'll just end up going to a backup car, so yeah, hopefully it'll be alright. Poisonous Frog, welcome to the stream. Got tickets for the truck race tonight, awesome. You guys going to the cup race tomorrow too? It's the point in the race where it starts to get a lot more calmer after green flag pit stops have cycled through. Field is extremely spaced out. But lap traffic's still not even in play for the leaders, though. Larson on the pole. Jr. closing in on Brian Vickers. Last time he tried to pass him, he got really loose off turn 2. This time he gets to the inside of Vickers off the exit of turn 2. Nice little run going into turns 3 and 4 as well. Junior hooked to that white line, and hook, line, and sinker, he is clear off turn 4 with ease. Dale Jr.'s been running faster laps than race leader Carl Edwards the way things have gone so far. We'll go back to the far chase cam for a while now. Still lap 69 at 250. Still 3 more pit stops yet to go in this race as well. We are a long way from the finish. I definitely wouldn't be counting Dale Jr. out of this race just yet. Spent the entire race outside the top half of the field, but the lap times he is running, if he could just get that track position with clean air, I think he's going to have a good shot to win this race. We got to see if we get any cautions for there to be any sort of strategy play potentially. That's if we get any more cautions. More spaced out the field gets and less battles for position there are on the track simultaneously, maybe the less of a chance that there would be a caution. I do think we will see more engine failures definitely before the end of the race. We've only seen, I think, 2 so far. Kevin Harvick is one. I'm not sure who the other was. Usually see quite a bit of engine failures, though, on the 2-mile ovals. We saw quite a bit of them at Michigan in just those first 52 laps before Dale Jr. DNF'd in that race. Including Dale Jr. DNFing himself. I wasn't sure what form of motorsports you were looking at when you said open wheel, because I was thinking you might have said, if you were sticking with NASCAR, I was thinking you were going with Kyle Larson or something, but I had no clue exactly how many wins Lewis Hamilton has. I really have paid little to no attention to Formula One. Gustavus and Brian, welcome to the stream. 25 people watching right now, only 17 likes. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more daily NASCAR content if you haven't already. Live race commentary for tomorrow's NASCAR Cup Series race at Richmond will be live on the channel at 2:30 Eastern Standard Time with our pre-race coverage, fantasy predictions, betting advice, and more. The drivers who I think will run well, not run well, and potential sleeper dark horse picks for good runs tomorrow as well. And then the live race commentary will start towards the top of the hour, a little after that at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The race will be on the USA Network tomorrow, so for those of you that maybe don't have cable, definitely tune in and watch it. For those of you that do, still come by, watch the race together, listen to my commentary. And I think we're going to enjoy these last few races before the playoffs because it is getting intense. And I can't wait to watch that with you guys over the next couple of weeks, especially with me being a Ryan Blaney fan. You guys are going to see me on the edge of my seat for all the final 3 races here. I will say the likelihood of me commentating the regular season finale of Daytona is slim to none. Unless Daytona gets postponed to Sunday, that'd be the only way I'd be able to do commentary for that race with working Saturday and then getting home. I'll get home before the start of the race. But then I have a fantasy football draft scheduled later that night. So definitely giving live commentary this weekend for the Cup race at Richmond and then next weekend at Watkins Glen. But unless Daytona gets rained out on Saturday and they race Sunday, I will not be able to do the live commentary for that. But then I will be doing live commentary for the Southern 500 at Darlington the next weekend. We've got another car blowing up on the inside of the racetrack that has blown an engine into turns 3 and 4, and it looks to be Ryan Newman, another driver below the cutoff line, has blown an engine. Another bubble driver with an engine failure today. First Kevin Harvick, now Ryan Newman, and that really opens the door up for the 3 drivers of Elliott Sadler, even potentially Kyle Busch to move up a couple spots in points today. But Elliott Sadler, who came in 11th in points, Bobby Labonte 10th, and Kurt Busch in 9th, and Busch has led laps already today and is likely still in the top 5. It's another spot on the leaderboard for Dale Jr. as well as he closes in on Ricky Rudd for 22nd. Hits his marks, hooked to that white line, just below it, in fact, most of the way through the corner. Squeezes underneath Rudd. Rudd did not give Dale Jr. a whole lot of room that time. 38.0 that last lap for Dale Jr. What a fast lap that was. That was even with battling Rudd for position. Michael Waltrip just ahead. Team order is going to allow for Dale Jr. to get by Waltrip. So they go into turns 3 and 4. Ricky Rudd gets blocked by Waltrip up on the outside lane. Dale Jr. drives by the 15 car and he's all clear. And now Waltrip will block Rudd behind Dale Jr. as well, so hopefully he's not going to be hooked onto that back bumper for too long and risk Dale Jr. getting a bit arrow loose in the corners. So team orders allow for Dale Jr. to get by both his teammate Michael Waltrip as well as the 21 car for the Wood brothers of Ricky Rudd that last lap. That will move Dale Jr. up the leaderboard to 21st. Getting to spot the lap before that because of somebody blowing it, well, Ryan Newman blowing an engine. Waltrip to follow Dale Jr. again. He fell a couple car lengths back. Junior just wanted a little extra breathing room so he could hit his marks going into the corners without worrying about getting air loose from the car behind him taking the air off the rear spoiler. Edwards has definitely led the most laps in the early going of this race. Then I'd probably say Tony Stewart's led the second most, followed by Kurt Busch. And Jeff Burton in 20th would be the next spot Dale Jr. would have to gain for position. Junior hops in the draft behind Burton through the tri-oval. Pretty good run for Earnhardt going into turns 1 and 2 this time. Dive bombs underneath of Jeff Burton, not wasting any time. Hits his mark, slides clear for 20th off turn 2. What a day for Dale Jr. in the 8 right now. Mostly bad, but he's slowly working himself back through this field. He overdrove 3 and 4 just a bit. Jeff Burton's probably going to be able to cross him over this time. Although he did not clear Dale Jr. yet, they're still side by side for position into the tri-oval. Junior side drafts Burton, trying to pull him back a little bit. Junior trying to hold this outside lane into turns 1 and 2. Hasn't really had to run the outside intentionally today until that point, but at least held on to the race car. He's less than 16 seconds off the lead, so he's definitely closing. Carries that corner exit speed, drives it in deep into 3 and 4. Down on the apron, gets it to stick early enough in the run yet. And clears Burton with a crossover of his own off turn 4. Trying to break the draft down towards the bottom of the racetrack now in the tri-oval. Lap 81, Dale Jr. back inside the top 20 for the first time since the opening lap of the race because he qualified 3rd before the lap 1 turn 3 accident involving Kyle Busch, Scott Riggs, and Sterling Marlin. Michael Waltrip was also involved. 5 cars total were in that crash. Considering Dale Jr. was 18.7 seconds off the lead when he started this run, he's gained a little over 3 seconds of time over Carl Edwards in the span of roughly 30 laps, a little under 30 laps. So he's gaining about a little over a tenth a second a lap on average. So it's relatively close to race leader Carl Edwards, but it looks like Edwards is about to get into lap traffic, which could hold him back a little bit more as well. Martin Truex Jr. just up ahead next as well. Slowing up right now. Team orders allow Dale Jr. to get by. Into turns 1 and 2. Jr. drives it in deep to get underneath McMurray. And then Nemechek, man, barely cleared McMurray in the middle of the corner. Gets into the back of the one of Truex. A little slow. Nemechek got by on the outside as a result. Dale Jr. gets by the 1 car, so he gets by 2 cars this lap, up to 18th and right in line behind Nemechek. And so now Dale Jr., the highest running DER car in 18th, has a run under the 0-1 of Joe Nemechek into turn 1 for 17th place. Oh, contact! Jr. got overly tight into the wall again. Goes the 8 car. Big hit from Waltrip. Caution's out for the 2nd time. And for the 2nd time, Dale Jr. gets tight with a car above him. And again, his teammate, Michael Waltrip, was involved in both accidents. Good golly. Heavy damage to the back of the 8 car after that accident. Right when you thought he was starting to get a little bit better than the front runners, that happens. That car is all sorts of torn up. mostly on the rear, which is where Walter just completely sheared the back bumper off the race car in his drive-by. Adrian K, welcome into the stream. Lucky that wasn't DNF. Yeah, I mean, at least it keeps Junior alive in the regular season championship just because he didn't DNF, but heavy damage to the 8 car. Second accident he's been involved in on a fast track today. And now all the way to the back once again. Can't take 4 tires and fuel because I caused the caution. Green flag back in the air. Still just the 3 cars out of the race. Lap 88 for the restart. The Busch Series race here had 8 cautions. And this race so far now has had just 2 in the first 88 laps. Dale Jarrett gets to the lead on the restart over Carl Edwards. No, I just got tight underneath another car. That was almost a carbon copy with what happened between Scott Riggs and Dale Jr. earlier in the day on lap 1. And I'm sure that, oh, caution's out. Likely debris on the racetrack. Maybe for Michael Waltrip's car, who obviously got a heavy hit in that last accident. And yes, it was Michael Waltrip's hood that came off, causing the yellow. That will be caution number 3 today. This one for debris. Dale Jr.'s at the back of the pack right now, so he could choose to pit for fuel and tires if he wants to. Might as well being at the rear. And nothing to lose with not pitting here, so he will hit pit road again. And all these cautions are evening the playing field and again creating more of an opportunity for drivers to be able to make it on 4 stops. Dale Jr. is going to pit this time, so he's looking at a 5-stop race, but that's because he's going to pit during the yellow, and he did not cause for the debris caution at least that time. Oh, I want to take fuel. I don't know what I was doing there. Yeah, so 4 tires and fuel, no adjustments on the 8. Yeah, rear of the field might as well top off on strategy there. Still going to have about 160 to go roughly on the restart, maybe a little less laps than that. So I doubt that Dale Jr. is going to be able to actually make it on just 2 more stops. He'd have to go about 54 to 55 green flag laps. If we get a couple more cautions, it's maybe possible, but knowing that Dale Jr.'s kind of been the reason for the 3 cautions today, the 2 were wrecks and then Waltrip's debris caution, but Waltrip was involved in each of the first 2 accidents, so that's why he's got quite a bit of damage. We'll see if we get any more debris yellows from that accident. Green flag back in the air. Lap 93. Exactly 158 to go. Caution's out, debris again. The 149 car just ran it over. So now we get another caution. Now this is going to be interesting because that's going to put him even closer. More debris off of Michael Waltrip's race car. Now the front bumper has come off. So he's missing the hood. The radiator is now exposed as well as the engine. And Dale Jr. is going to pit again for fuel and tires. Might as well at the back. If more cars pit here, he's going to go fuel only. Just to top off, but it doesn't look like anybody else will be in. I wonder if the 149 will pit because he ran over the debris. Might have a flat tire. No, he does not. Wow, that's surprising he didn't pit. 3rd stop of the day already for Dale Jr. Under these last couple cautions, just trying to top off and trying to get as close to 2 stops to the end of the race from here as possible. He's definitely going to be close with this caution. I would have said he was outside the window before that. Now we're probably looking at about 155 laps to go in this next restart. Well, this could be the strategy call that gets Dale Jr. back into it. Not exactly the way he wanted to do it, but kind of have to take what you can get, I guess. Yeah, if nobody else pitted, I definitely would have went fuel only. But Nobody else pitted. I'm surprised the 149 car, again, who ran over that debris. He was a car in front of Dale Jr. 2 cars in front of Dale Jr. there that ran it over. Doesn't go for it. Green flag back in the air. Dale Jarrett trying to survive for another restart. 154 laps to go. If Dale Jr. can make it 52 laps a run on fuel and tires, if he goes 52 laps a run, he can make this race on just 2 more stops. Greg Biffle going to take his first lead of the race into turn 3 as he gets by Jarrett on the restart. And we're probably going to be seeing some cars pit within the next few laps, I'd have to imagine. Nobody pitted during either of those 3 cautions. We did go 54 laps, but I was also with 3 caution laps at the start of the race too, Mark. So it might be close to 51. I mean, 51, 51, 51. I think we're going to be about 1 lap short. 154 to go. So, I mean, realistically, I guess we go 51 laps just to be safe. And then the final, run of the race, make that the 52-lapper. And risk it when that white flag comes out, hoping we just have enough to make it to the checkered flag from there. Junior at the back of the pack. I think the best thing for Dale Jr. now is that this race stays green, at least unless a caution comes out before the rest of the field ends up making their final stop, but they have to pit again here shortly where Dale Jr. can stay out. 5 bonus points, by the way, for Biffle leading a lap. He is in the top 5 in points coming into the race today as Dale Jr. powers underneath the 0.8 of Shane Meal. Gonna not race him overly aggressively, though, this time. I will say the restarts have been more tame in the Cup Series than the Busch Series. I mean, they were 4 and 5 wide in the Busch race, at least with the late race yellows. I guess we're not even halfway home yet in this one. He's got to be not so aggressive trying to pass these cars, again, knowing that they will pit fairly soon, and that will give Dale Jr. the lead. Maybe there'll be a 42-car pileup. Well, considering 3 cars are out of the race, that wouldn't be the case. Looks like Truex is on his way into the pits. And nobody else pit that time by at lap 100. 3-stopper to the end for everybody else that lap. Jr. underneath Shane Meal. And Jr. will complete the pass through 1 and 2. Got by Terry Labonte on the front stretch before that as well. If we had that big of a wreck, there would definitely be more debris cautions following that. More cars coming into the pits that time. Still only about 4 or 5 cars hit pit road. Everybody else really trying to take it as far as they can. Dale Jr. is definitely not going to get alongside this 149 car. Truex trying to work himself up to speed. And Truex up the track into 1 and 2. Merges into line. Junior underneath the 149, backs out of the gas off turn 4 because he knows that 149 car is going to try to take a swing at him. Junior hasn't done a great job taking care of his car today, but never too late to start taking care of your equipment. It's kind of Dale Jr.'s mindset right now. He's definitely faster than these cars, not only before the wreck, but especially with these fresher tires. He's got about 45 lap fresher tires on these guys. Oh, John Andretti checked up with the cars in front of him pitting. Dale Jr. got into the back of him just a bit. Jr. to the inside of Andretti. Martin Truex Jr. on the outside, who is already lapped down after pitting. Joe Nemechek's upset with Dale Jr. right now. Dale to the outside of the 0-1. 149 car blocking towards the bottom right now. Luckily, Kyle Petty gets in front of Nemechek as well. Jr. to the inside of Casey Mears in the 41 car. 149 going to pit in front of him. Clears Mears. Now he can start to attack on these fresher tires. Decides to sit behind Sterling Marlin. Marlin actually had a really good run the draft behind Brian Vickers. 3 wide into turns 1 and 2 up ahead. Almost 4 wide. Oh, contact off turn 2 between Dale Jr. and Casey Mears, but we do stay green. Mears got loose, held onto his car down on the bottom of the track. Now they're 4 wide. Maybe for a split second, that was about it. Pack of cars getting racy. Some of them have cycled out of the pits, some have not. Junior's not going to be able to lap the whole field on this 2-mile racetrack on this strategy, but he is going to have quite a few cars a lap down by the time everybody cycles through. Jeff Green would be the first car 1 lap down as of once everybody else pits at least. Into turns 3 and 4. Junior checking up because he thinks the 77's going to pit. And as he checks up, Casey Kadema ran into the back of him. Michael Waltrip into the pits that time by as well. Kane in the draft of Ricky Rudd. I will say Dale Jr.'s car is even tighter with all the damage from the 2 accidents, probably than what it was going to be otherwise. Michael Waltrip just came out of the pits in the 15 car. Dale Jr. way down low. That's probably not a good idea. That could have been a disaster. Jr. up to 4th. Kurt Busch will stay out. Jason Leffler into the pits. Dale Jr. up to 3rd. 37 point. It's like 299 that last lap, or 199 potentially. Or 37.999 is probably it. I don't know that Dale Jr.'s gotten into the 37-second lap barrier until that last lap. Junior back to the lead at California. There's 37.999. Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks for doubling down on that in the chat. I think Mark Martin's the car right in front of the 8 right now. Last car in the lead lap. Dale Jr. to the inside of Mark. A little contact. That knocked the 8 car a bit loose. And Junior clears Martin off the exit of turn 2. Just about. I think Martin still might be there. And Kurt Busch, after staying out longer than anybody else, will be the last car in the lead lap for now. Elliott Sadler looking to the inside of Dale Jr. trying to get back on the lead lap. Remember, he's trying to catch Bobby Labonte and Kurt Busch to get into the chase. So Sadler definitely does not want to be a lap down in case a potential caution comes out right now, and Dale Jr. is holding him up. And Martin back to the inside of the 38 car. .821 that last lap for Dale Jr. I think now he's in the draft with faster cars. It's probably why he's running his fastest laps of the race. That was blistering fast, that last lap. Kurt Busch powers to the inside of Rusty Wallace. His future ride. Once Wallace retires at the end of this coming season. As for position, important points for Busch, who's on the inside of the cutoff line right now. On a guy running just a couple positions behind him. And Kurt also trying to pick up a quick spot on Jimmy Johnson in the 48 car. It looks like he will off turn 4. Wow, 37.744 for Dale Jr. that last lap. What a lap by the 8 car. Uses that to get by Johnson. Wallace makes contact with Dale Jr. Still, even with the contact on the backstretch with Rusty Wallace, he ran a 37.9 again. Got tight in the dirty air, though, behind the 2 car that time. It's going to open up the bottom for Jimmy Johnson. Dale Jr. stays in the draft of the 2 car in the back straightaway. We'll take a second field pass in the race this time by at the start-finish line. Second and final one of the race, and we'll see where Michael Waltrip and Martin Truex Jr. are running in the field. First, we'll go back to Truex in the 1 car. And he is in 27th, 1 lap down currently. Truex side drafted Boris said. Lightning McLean. Truex got blocked heavily by Quaffle. All 4 tires onto the apron that time. It clears Quaffle off turn 4 for 24th. Quickly hops in the draft behind Jeff Burton in the 31. 37.843 that lap for Truex. Looking fast as well. Dale Jr. underneath to Jeff Burton. Hooks the left side below the apron through 1 and 2. Powers past Burton on the back stretch. I think Truex has a shot to get inside the top 15. Sean Derriman, welcome to the stream. 3 wide to the bottom. Through 3 and 4 goes Martin Truex Jr. This 1 car is flying on the racetrack right now. We're talking about Dale Jr. picking up the time. What adjustments has this 1 car made? 37.796. He's risking it down on the apron through 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Crazy passes being made though right now. Gets by Michael Waltrip for 17th. Kyle Busch going to follow Truex. I will say there is quite a few cars a lap down with the strategy Dale Jr. is on currently. Just got to the inside of Jeff Green. Green really crowded Truex that time through 3 and 4. I think Truex has grip on those somewhat fresher tires, and he is now back inside the top 15. He was up to 8th at one point in time. Well, congrats on your baby on the way in December. Good magic, that could definitely get pretty hectic as far as the process and all that. I don't have a kid, so I wouldn't know for sure, but definitely be a life-changing experience. Even Dale Jarrett kind of dropped back a little bit after that last restart. Truex underneath them looking for 12th. We'll go back to Michael Waltrip now in the 15 car. Waltrip in 19th place currently. Truex has some smoke coming out of the back of his car right now, and he is slow on the bottom of the racetrack. He is dropping like a rock. Waltrip to the inside of the 5. All the way down 3 wide to the bottom to get underneath his teammate Truex, and then the 9 of Casey Kane. Oh! Whoa, man. Contact between the DEI cars of Waltrip and Truex that time. Could tell if the 15 came up or the 1 came down. Almost seemed like the 1 came down. Yeah, it was weird. It's like Truex just started to go down a cylinder as soon as we got him all the way up to side-by-side battle with Dale Jarrett for 12th, which is unfortunate. Waltrip gets back by Busch for 17th again. Truex obviously would have also been a spot. 37.710 for Truex. That's insane. Went so fast he blew an engine. Seemed like it, at least. Being blocked on the back straightaway as well currently. Jeff Green tried to take him out a little earlier in the race. It was in the very early going when he took that first field pass. See 3 wide battle going into turn 1 up ahead. Now down to side by side. It's in the group ahead of the probably 6 or 7 cars you see lined up single file through 1 and 2 that time. Yeah, Casey Kane not making it easy right now for Michael Waltrip to get by him. Waltrip to the inside of Kane off turn 4. We'll go back to Dale Earnhardt Jr. at the start-finish line. Again, has a lot of damage to the back of his race car. He's still staying in the draft of Kurt Busch, Elliott Sadler. So he gets to the inside of Busch through turns 1 and 2. And stays in the draft of Sadler. Halfway out of fuel right now for Dale Jr. Trying to find a way to make it on fuel all the way to the end of the race. 37.766 for Earnhardt that last lap. Definitely one of his fastest laps of the race. Going up the track a little tight, though, in the dirty air behind Sadler. A little bit older tires now than one we were driving as Dale Jr. a little bit ago. And we are halfway home, just past halfway. Time for tonight's trivia question on the channel. And today's California Speedway / Auto Club track fact is this. No race has ever gone caution-free at Auto Club, but what year in the NASCAR Cup Series did it come close to finishing caution free. There was just one caution in the race, and the race ended under yellow. So the last caution was the yellow that ended the race. It was also the only caution in the entire race. What year was that race at Auto Club? That's tonight's trivia question. No hints. So what year was the only year that Auto Club had just one caution in a cup race? Closest race they went to going caution free, and it ended under yellow. Otherwise, who knows? It might have gone caution free. It was not 1999. And you're definitely tightening up as this run goes on. He's got to stay in traffic, though. The draft is going to help him lose, or save fuel, not lose fuel. I mean, he's losing fuel either way, but he's going to save a little bit more in the draft. He used his tires up a little too much going that low in the middle of the corner as well. Couldn't grip it like Truex and Waltrip were a little bit ago, especially Truex. Before he had a mechanical issue. Not 2001 either. Not 1997. If you do guess any years, make sure you don't guess chronologically to try to get the answer. Will Robertson, welcome to the stream. Just woke up in the packed rooms. What the... Random comment. Not 2000. Guess in the early years. There were a lot more races to have fewer cautions, I guess, further back. Not 2003. I do think somebody will get the question correct eventually, but I will cut it off at the end of lap 135. I'll give you guys the answer if you don't get it before then. Not 1998. Well, I've been racing at Auto Club for about 25 years. Sadler with a block on Dale Jr. on the inside. Jr. staying stuck right now behind the 38 car. Got into the back of Sadler going into turn 1. Launched him underneath the 17 of Kenseth, but that really tightened up the 8 car going into the corner. Trying to catch up in the draft on the back straightaway, though, behind the 17 car. Any update on where Cousin Carl is? Not as of right now. I wouldn't be shocked if he was in second. To be completely honest. This could allow Dale Jr. to lead the most laps with this strategy in the race, because it was looking like Carl Edwards was likely going to lead the most laps today. Maybe have a little competition for it now. That is a slide. Jr. tried to keep his foot in it until he couldn't any longer. Golly, just got a little too low again. Similar to what happened when he was battling with Brian Vickers earlier in the day. And luckily, everybody was able to scatter to the outside on the back straightaway, and Dale Jr. hopefully not going to burn through his tires too much over this run. It was a big mistake from Earnhardt. No drafting help in front of Dale Jr. anymore either. Got a couple cars closing in behind him of Jason Leffler and Jamie McMurray. Quarter tank of gas left for the 8 of Earnhardt. Not 2007. So I've not seen the correct answer tonight for our trivia question. Again, the question was, what year in the NASCAR Cup Series was there only one caution in a race at Auto Club? It was the least amount of cautions in any Auto Club Cup Series race, and the answer to that question was 2012, as that race had ended under yellow. That was the only caution. It was rain shortened. Tony Stewart won. It was a rain shortened Auto Club race, but it only had just the one caution for the rain. Contact with Jason Leffler. Leffler and McMurray get by the 8 of Dale Jr. Jr. about 26.2 seconds still ahead of second place. I'm surprised nobody got the answer right. It's kind of a trick question because it was a rain-shortened race, but that was the only one. There was only one caution. And the closest caution-free race ever in Auto Club history in the Cup Series. Dale Jr. trying to stretch this fuel tank out as far as he possibly can so he could try to make it on 2 stops from the end. He topped off on fuel during the last couple pit stops under the last few cautions, which came out, and at least we restarted under this most recent yellow with 154 laps to go at the time of the last restart. So he's got to go 154 laps here at Auto Club on just 2 pit stops. It's going to be tough. I don't think it's impossible, but it's going to be tough. Especially if we stay green to the end of the race. 2 cautions for debris and 2 wrecks are the 4 yellows so far. Both the debris cautions were from the 15 of Michael Waltrip. Everybody else still has to pit 2 more times, so that's why Dale Jr. and this strategy could pan out for him. I wouldn't doubt it. I think it's definitely got a possibility of working. Only an 1/8 of a tank of fuel left, though, for the 8 car as of right now. Staying in line behind Jason Leffler and Jamie McMurray. These cars aren't quite as fast as the cars of Kurt Busch and Elliott Sadler, who were around Dale Jr. earlier in this run. Jr. cost himself just a little bit more time. Didn't really abuse the tires as much as I would have thought with that big slide he had earlier in the run. The car still doesn't feel like it's getting loose. Doesn't have anybody really tucked up too close in line behind him right now either. So you're way up the track. It's definitely getting actually more tight than loose. That right rear tire starting to really wear out on the 8 car all of a sudden as well. Middle of the tri-oval looking low underneath Leffler, not quite going to get there. Has to hop back in line. Sterling Marlin in the 40 car starting to close in from behind as well on the 8 of Dale Jr. Marlin looking low. Couldn't quite get to the inside of the 8 car yet. Into turns 3 and 4. Marlin all over the back bumper of Dale Jr. Jr. not going to get aero loose that time, though. Pulls out of line, middle of the tri-oval, middle of the front straightaway, and he's not able to really make any passes. Jr. drives it in really deep into 1 and 2. Slides up the track a bit more. Marlin down low. Earnhardt gets really loose off turn 2 that time. Little side draft in the 40 car on that left rear corner panel off the exit of turn 2. Side by side, Junior on the outside through 3 and 4. Marlin going to clear him and get back on the lead lap in case we get a caution before Junior pits. 105 laps to go at the line that time. Dale Jr. needs to go at least 51 laps in this run, which means he's going to have to go one more lap yet. Marlin gets by Leffler. Oh, contact between Leffler and Marlin that time in turns 3 and 4. That allows for Dale Jr. to hook the white line, get by Leffler. And he's side by side with the 40 car of Sterling Marlin in the tri-oval. Drafting help between the 11 and the 40 on the outside as they try to stay up high to get around Dale Jr. Marlin definitely did. Dale Jr. is risking this car another lap on the racetrack right now. He's going to share draft. Well, he was going to try to share draft behind Marlin. He's going to pit this time. Dale Jr. will pit this time. He has gone 51 laps, I believe, during this run. Actually, he'd have to go one more to go 51, so he's going to stay out one more lap. So Dale Jr. going to stay out of the pits one more lap. Trying to share draft as much as he can behind Leffler. This is the 51st lap of the run. So this is 51 laps into the run. He will pit this time, and then he'll have to go 51 and 52 the final 2 runs. He's not going to go 52 laps until the very end. Junior's a little loose getting into turn 3 that time. Luckily, he's going to be pitting. Can't afford to spin trying to get into the pits, and doesn't want a pit road speeding penalty either. On to pit road he goes. Martin Truex Jr. further behind will also hit the pits. 4 tires and fuel for Dale Jr. So he does go 51 green flag laps that time on fuel. So 2 more stops in this race. 1 more after this is the hopes for Dale Jr. And he's going to really stretch it on fuel to the very end. The only chance of really winning this race is on fuel strategy with the problems in the handling department in traffic. It's affected the speed in the car, and track position obviously has resulted in the lack of speed in the car in traffic. And the lack of handling in traffic. Carl Edwards back to the lead for the time being. And Dale Jr. just got 4 fresh tires and fuel that time into the pits. Junior trying to stay on the apron all the way through the corner. He got really loose that time. Trying to get up to speed in turns 3 and 4. So that was a scheduled stop for Truex. Tony Stewart back in the lead now as Carl Edwards must have pitted that last time by. So Edwards pitting fairly early as well. It's like 3 wide in turns 1 and 2 behind Dale Jr. So Junior going to have to go 51 laps on this run now as well. And then 52 on the final run. He's got clean air in front of him, but he had a lot of drafting help the majority of that last run. Trying to catch the car in front of him right now so he gets a little bit of drafting help as Greg Biffle has retaken his second lead of the race. For Tony Stewart pitted that time by, giving up the lead. Closing in on Scott Riggs in the 10. Lined up behind Riggs to share draft on the back straightaway. Riggs will potentially pit this time. Junior's 19.3 seconds off the race lead from Biffle. Got really tight and dirty here behind Riggs. Little look to draft behind him again. It looks like off turn 4 in the outside lane. It's amazing how long Dale Jr. is going to be in fuel conservation mode in today's race. The only way I think this plays out for him is if it stays green all the way to the end. So he's got to make sure not only he doesn't make a major mistake himself, but also going to have to make sure that everybody else can race clean all the way to the very end also. '16 might not have any drafting help because I think Dale Jr. is definitely gaining time on him, although Biffle still has to pit yet. Once again, Jr. lifting to keep it behind Riggs. Jr. drafts behind the 10 car. Ricky Rudd down low, trying to get up to speed. Slides up in front of Riggs in turns 3 and 4. Not sure if Riggs has pit yet, but we know the 21 just came out of the pits, so it might be wise for Dale Jr. to try and pass Scott Riggs if he gets an opportunity to. Not going to that time in turns 1 and 2. Jr. drafted behind the 10 car, Rudd down low to block. Michael Waltrip is into the pits this time. Kurt Busch back into the lead as Biffle is also pit. And a lot more drivers beyond that also coming in. Rusty Wallace will not make the chase in his final season. Tough break, yeah, indeed. I think he did make the chase in real life in his final season, if I'm not mistaken. I think he had a 9th place points finish. That's really good in your last season in the Cup Series. He probably had one of the best final seasons of all time, honestly. Jeff Gordon obviously did also, but not too many times you can be that consistent at the very end of your career. I would say he probably definitely retired too early. I think he definitely had a couple more good years in him to compete for a win, potentially, on the off opportunity. I mean, look at what Mark Martin was able to do, and he kept racing full-time for probably another, 4 seasons roughly after that? One more with Roush, and then he had a couple full-time seasons with Hendrick. Riggs gaining some positions out on the racetrack as well. Busch still leads. Kurt was one of the last cars to hit pit road earlier in the race. He's potentially trying to get 10 bonus points for leading as many laps as possible. And he's definitely going to be able to make it on 2 more stops. I don't know that everybody's going to be able to do that. Obviously, Dale Jr. is probably the closest to not being able to make it, but I think there is other cars who, like Truex, who pitted the same lap as Dale Jr. that last time. And Truex has been one of the first cars to pit road almost every single time as well. It's not the Smithfield 10, no, Torres. Valvoline. This Valvoline paint scheme, by the way, very underrated for Scott Riggs. Scott Riggs was an underrated driver, too, though. I really wish he would have had a chance in top-tier equipment. I think he could have gone out there and won some cup races. One of the drivers that never just got a fair shake in the Cup Series. MB2 Motorsports kind of sold out and shut down and never really had another opportunity with another team really ever again. It's a semi-competitive team. Some great runs in this car. Busch stays out again. Somebody in the top 5 will pit, at least one car that time around. Alright, so I think Dale Jr. saved enough during this run. He's going to try to start passing cars again here. So he's up to 3rd. Riggs getting by Boris Said. Through turns 1 and 2, still side by side. Dale Jr. with the run on the back straightaway. Got to go 3 wide to the bottom underneath Riggs and Said. Into turns 3 and 4. Riggs got a little tight, almost got into the 36 car. He does clear him, though, up the racetrack. And Kurt Busch is in from the lead. This will give the race lead right back to Dale Jr., but it won't be till the next time officially at the start-finish line that Jr. will get back into the lead. It's going to be interesting to see exactly how big of a lead Dale Jr. will have as well. Rusty finished 8th in his final season. Okay. I knew he was towards the back half of the chase, but I do remember him making the chase. Yeah, honestly, as far as like consistency and stuff goes, I don't see why he could have been at his age when he retired a driver who could have been like Kurt Busch now, winning, you know, 1 race a season, top 10 in points. Like I don't see why he could have struggled doing that, because obviously he did it in his final season. You wonder where Kurt Busch would have went though after Roush if he couldn't go to Penske because the 2 car wasn't open. And Newman was still really good at that time, so they weren't getting rid of Newman until a few years down the line yet. That really could have changed the complexion of everything. Like the 3 wide off turn 4 a little further back. Dale Jr. down low, trying to stay in front of the 36 car right now. Boris Said. Jr. going a bit wide though through turns 3 and 4. Said down low. Gonna get underneath Earnhardt. And all clear. Boris Said back on the lead lap at California. We'll have just 85 laps to go this time by. Dale Jr.'s got just over an 18.5 second lead over second place yet. Then we got a little older tires from everybody who just pitted a couple laps ago. So I would say that definitely doesn't help him. He's going to drive underneath of Said. From the side draft quickly. Reagan Fan 6, welcome to the stream. Yeah, Mike Bliss, 8th in points. He's got a shot of locking himself into the chase at the end of the night. Although I have not really seen him at all in this race, which scares me knowing that 3 drivers have blown engines. Though 2 of which were below the cutoff line of Ryan Newman and Kevin Harvick, so that would help him. But Elliott Sadler, as far as I know, still in this race and likely in the top 10. Jeremy Mayfield now to the inside of Dale Jr. Jr.'s battling with these cars right now that are really slowing him up. Mayfield's still underneath him into turns 1 and 2. Jr. on the outside and Borisset in front of him, so that puts Earnhardt in a little bit of dirty air. And now the 31 of Jeff Burton looking down low. Mayfield gets back on the lead lap and gets by Borisset. Big block by Mayfield on Sed. That's going to stack him up and wad him up 3 wide. Still 3 wide off the exit of turn 4. Jr. getting a little drafting help behind Jeff Burton. Pulls him in front of Borisset up high. And just in front of Ricky Rudd down low. But Jr. in the dirty air behind the 31 slides right up the track. And Rudd's going to get underneath him anyway. And clear him down the back straightaway. Under 98 miles an hour into turn 1 that time. Side by side between Jeff Burton and Ricky Rudd. They're going to battle Dale Jr. hard to try and stay in the lead lap in case we get a 5th caution in this race. So you can't blame them for doing what they're doing and holding Dale Jr. up. Jr. has to pick this pace up at least a little bit. Yeah, Rusty didn't win much in the 2000s. He's still competitive, though. To finish that consistent in points and knowing NASCAR, I mean, he definitely could have gotten a couple wins, I do believe. Who knows, maybe he could have gotten that first Daytona 500 victory. That eluded him in his career. You look at how good Kurt Busch was in the 2007 Daytona 500. I mean, that could have been Rusty Wallace, and Wallace is a much cleaner racer than Kurt Busch, especially at that time. Maybe he could have brought the car home. That's a pretty interesting what if. Big dive into turns 3 and 4 for Earnhardt, but he got pinched off by Burton. Drafted now behind Ricky Rudd on the back straightaway, trying to get by Mayfield. I will say, though, this group is closing in on the 4 cars even in front of them. The side drafting going on up above Dale Jr. I just feel like the way these guys are battling, though, Dale Jr. might be able to get around these cars. I don't think he's going to be able to pull away. They do have fresher tires on him, even though Jr.'s got a faster car. Definitely even the playing field. Earnhardt going 3 wide to the inside in 3 and 4. Trap behind Jeff Burton. That allows him to clear Rudd and Mayfield by the start-finish line. Cleared Rudd more towards the exit of turn 4. And Rudd gets by Mayfield that time through 1 and 2. First car 1 lap down, we get the free pass if we did see a late caution. Halfway out of fuel, lap 174 for Dale Jr. Again, he has to go 51 laps this run, which would be to lap 149. Then he'll have to go 52 laps on the final run of the race if he's going to want to make it to the end on one more pit stop. Burton and Rudd just about made contact going into turns 1 and 2 that time. Junior tightened the outside lane. Jeremy Mayfield underneath him. Marlin up high to block Burton. Big run down low for Rudd, picking up a bunch of positions. This is an intense battle, though, at the tail of the lead lap. I'll give them credit for that. And they've been clean the entire time, too. I don't think these guys have made any contact with one another. Junior to the apron into 3 and 4. Trying to get as much clean air in the nose as possible in the middle of the corner. Keep the car from shoving extremely tight by the exit. Got it to make it lap 200 to a 1. Lap 200 would mean I'd have 50 laps to go when I come out of the pits. I would definitely make it from there. I can pit at lap 199 and definitely make it, because Dale Jr.'s got 51 laps on the last run, all during green flag laps. 52 laps is going to be the hard part, though. But he doesn't want to risk it middle of the race and would rather risk it on the final lap. I think he's going to have to tack a little more on fresher tires the next time by 3 wide, also through turns 1 and 2. Junior's getting pinched by Jeff Burton, so they keep it off of one another. Still 3 wide on the back straightaway. Still 3 wide now into turn 3. Junior hooking the apron that time. It's loose, but held on to it. Dire move, trying to give himself clean air, especially being 3 wide into the corner. He's able to draft off Sterling Marlin in the tri-oval, which helps a little bit. And now drives underneath the 21 car, Ricky Rudd. Mayfield Burton back to being a lap down again, and potentially Rudd as well. Still drafting behind Marlin. Side drafting going on between Jason Leffler and I believe potentially Jeff Green. Junior couldn't hold the bottom that time as he slides clear of the 21 of Rudd. Mayfield gets by Rudd and down to the inside of the race leader, Dale Jr. 38.0 is still being ran by Earnhardt, even battling in traffic, but he's not running those 37.7s like he was at one point earlier in the race either. Mayfield gets back by. $70 laps to go this time by. Mayfield trying to get by Marlin. You're trying to get away from those guys just for a quick second. Marlin giving up a lot of bottom going into turns 1 and 2. Allows for Dale Jr. to stay underneath him. Jr. going up the side draft the 40 in the middle of the corner. And clears Marlin off turn 2. And in the draft behind Jason Leffler, who is also drafting behind Jeff Green on the outside. Bottom is open for Jeremy Mayfield in the 19 car to get by both of them for position. Jeff Burton starting to lose these guys just a little bit. Ricky Rudd to the inside of Marlin for the free pass spot. Leffler still battling underneath Green and may have cleared him in the tri-oval. The speed from Dale Jr. into turn 1, 200 miles an hour that time. Into the corner. Leffler battles back to the inside of Jeremy Mayfield. Jeff Green behind the 11, the 8 behind the 43. Into turn 3 they go. Junior underneath Jeremy Mayfield. We'll say Junior's maintaining with the leaders, 37.9. A tenth of a second quicker than the lap before that last lap. Passed halfway through the fuel and tire stint, pretty good as well. And Dale Jr. Maybe a little arrow loose that time for the 21 of Ricky Rudd. He's trying to keep his foot in it and drive out of it. He's going fishtailing down the back straightaway. That was a major moment for Dale Jr. And he tried to keep his foot in the throttle as long as possible until he just couldn't hold on much longer. Great save by Earnhardt. He was still pushing all the way through that slide. And then finally had to lift when it looked like he was about to overcorrect the car back up the racetrack again. And that's unfortunate because he has lost even more of his lead. And the lead is now down to about 13.5 seconds, and that's going to start to wear these tires up a little bit more. It was the 21 car, Ricky Rudd, who was right behind the 8. And there was a car to the outside, so Junior really couldn't get out of the way of the 21, who had a big run into the corner. And the 21 car never touched Earnhardt, but he definitely was close enough to that back bumper where he got him arrow loose on a fast track like California. Quaffle got to get by. Boris said drafting behind Quaffle. Set and Quaffle back on the lead lap. That's going to allow some of those guys that were starting to fall back behind that group of about 5 or 6 cars like a Jeff Burton and Sterling Marlin to get back on the lead lap now. And second place was able to close in about 3 seconds. I didn't think I really did anything wrong, though, Patrick. I didn't think I was over-aggressive, at least that time. Never made contact with anybody, and just had a car come up too close behind me that had such a big run into the corner. I didn't block him or anything. Just got the car arrow loose kind of out of nowhere, and I haven't really had to deal with that at this track at all yet today either, until that moment. I probably could have lifted a little bit earlier, and the slide was about one thing I could have done different. I don't want to like completely save on gas right now either. I know we can go 51 laps. Saving enough during the beginning of the run, should be able to. Blocked by the 77. I will say Boris said and Travis Quaffle are even slower than those other cars up there that were around Dale Jr. because Jr. was about 13.6 to 13.7 seconds off the lead once he initially fell behind both of these two, and now he's about 12.7 off the lead. He's lost a full second just in the last couple laps sitting behind Quaffle and said. He was lifting quite a bit to keep it out from underneath the 77 of Quaffle that time. Lap 189 at the line, 62 laps to go. Dale Jr. trying to get the California sweep and hopefully go on to win his 11th race of the season. He might be the driver to lead the most laps by the end of this race as well. The things the way things are going so far. Said and Quaffle definitely holding him up right now. Blocked by Quaffle. Said lifted before getting into turn 1 a little earlier, and Junior had to check up to keep from running into the back of the 36 car. Down to a 12.3 second gap. Whatever happens here, Dale Jr. has to make sure he does not speed when he hits pit road. That would be a very costly penalty in this situation where that gap is closing. And remember, second place on back, really every car in the field, except for Martin Truex Jr., who pitted at the same time as Dale Jr., has a little bit fresher tires than Earnhardt. I mean, there were some guys that were able to go about 12 to 13 laps after Dale Jr. before they pitted, so they got about 12 to 13 lap fresher tires than Earnhardt as well. So that gap would probably close regardless, about a tenth or two a lap, but let alone the fact that he's stuck behind lap cars and kind of gets tight in the middle of the corner, and when he gets a run on the straightaway, he either lifts to kind of be patient behind him or he tries to make a move and they don't give him a lot of room. They're racing him. I mean, that's just plain and simple. Junior had a big run going into 3 and 4 that time. Goes 3 wide. Wow, Jeff Burton's really starting to fall back after losing the draft from the cars in front of him. And Junior is going to be able to clear both of the 77 and 36 car off turn 4 that time. Down low to try and break a little bit of the draft. Waffle to the outside of the 8 of Dale Jr. into 1 and 2. Picked a different lane so Junior didn't have to worry about getting any sort of aero loose that time. If he could put a gap on him, that would be great. See how much of the drafting effect is going to allow both those two cars behind him now. And Junior's got an 1/8 of a tank of fuel left in the race car as well currently during this run. Put the apron just a little bit in the middle of the corner. He caught it quickly. Big block on the 77. Borset might be on the inside of Quaffle through 1 and 2. 77's going to get the draft on the outside, though, versus Borset down low. Doesn't have any drafting help. These cars are closing in on Jeff Burton. A little aero loose was said behind him again. 11.8 seconds as the gap back to second place. Him being able to draft behind Jeff Burton on the straightaways is starting to allow him to pull away from Quaffle and Boris said slowly but surely. Junior a lot faster than the two cars behind him those last couple laps. Ran another 37.9. Junior has to go just 4 more laps. He saved a lot of fuel at the beginning of the run, though, too. I wonder if he may be able to go 52 laps this run, so that way he can for sure make it on 51. It's going to be a risk either way he takes it, but just in case he can't save as much fuel in the last run compared to what he saved at the beginning of this run, I think Dale Jr. is going to try to go 52 laps this time around. Try to get to lap 199 and then just go 51 to the end from there, knowing he has gone 51 laps, so 2 runs already today. By that time, he tries to make the run to the checker. He's going to stay behind Burton so he doesn't have to risk getting aero loose out for right now. Quaffle and Set have really battled with each other back there. Like they were side by side for a brief moment through turns 3 and 4. Martin Truex Jr. in the pit pretty early into the run. He's a lap down yet behind Dale Jr. He had that mechanical issue towards the end of the last run. And now Jeff Burton and Dale Jr. have caught Sterling Marlin in the 40. That gap back to second place has grown just a bit. There's another car blowing up on the inside of the racetrack right now, and it's Matt Kenseth. So a potential chaser, Matt Kenseth, who came in 7th in points today, has blown an engine. It's the 3rd driver in the top 13 in points now to have an engine failure, at least 3 of them. And we are now at lap 198. So the moment of truth for Dale Jr., does he pit this time? Or does he try to go one more lap? Sterling Marlin just squeezed Dale Jr. Jr.'s tight. He's in the wall and gets crammed by the 77 down the back straightaway. Caution is out. Hard hit by Travis Quaffle. I don't even know what happened there. It just looked like Sterling Marlin ran the 8 car down the track and he had no room to make the exit of that turn. That's the second big hit to the back bumper of the 8 car today. Jiminy Christmas. I was going to put everybody on the window now. Oh my gosh, as if it wasn't already a fuel mileage race. That is not what Dale Jr. needed. I'm pitting for fuel and tires because I'm not going to be able to make it another lap without pitting for fuel. Marlin just did not, and that wasn't that like the second time that's happened between Dale Jr. and Sterling Marlin today too? I think one of the other times I got loose, I was on the apron off the exit of the corner, but I was underneath Marlin. Slow stop for the 8 team as they had to repair a lot of damage on pit road. He's going to lose quite a few spots and lose the lead. I'm not sure that everybody necessarily pitted. There were some cars on pit road when the caution came out, but weren't a lap down yet, so those drivers are definitely going to restart up towards the front. Green flag back in the air. Boris Said is the new leader to the restart. 50 laps to go at California. I would assume everybody is good on fuel to the end of the race. Does Dale Jr. have the car with all the damage he has ensued in today's race to be able to make it to the finish? This is our 5th caution of the day. Will we stay green to the finish? Casey Mears battling for the lead at the front as well. Boy, Mears and Said really lucked out. Got a couple cars pitting. I don't think they can make it on fuel to the end. None of them were on the lead lap, though. .8 seconds. So all Dale Jr. is off the lead, but he's got some lap cars and lead lap cars to pass. 3 wide in front of him through turns 1 and 2 as they stack up a little bit. Jr. needs to stay in the draft of these cars in front of him. Can't make another mistake and lose the draft. I don't think he's got the speed. Just got into the 169. .48 to go. Dale Jarrett thought about blocking Dale Jr. He did try to block him. Truex right in front of the 8. Jr. going up the track. Contact with Jarrett. Jarrett's into the wall on the outside. No! Man, another wreck. Jr. couldn't get off the top. Waltrip again creams him. That is the 3rd time Dale Jr. has crashed today because of getting tight with the car on the outside. And all 3 times, Michael Waltrip has crammed into the back bumper. Oh, poor Mikey. Oh, Sadler took a big hit into the back of his teammate there as well. As if it wasn't bad enough. Nowhere to go for a couple cars that were flying in there at the back of the field. How is this 8 car not self-destructed yet? And that will be caution number 6. And we've got a couple more drivers pitting under the yellow, but not everybody. There were a couple big hits in there. Sadler into Jarrett. That car, I've noticed the car has felt tighter and tighter and tighter in dirty air as I get in more and more accidents. And I think that was the case that led into him getting up into Jarrett. Carl Edwards is in the pit as well. So the points leader is in along with Dale Jr. That's interesting. So Carl Edwards and Dale Jr. both at the tail of the lead lap right now. And green flag is going to be back in the air. Jr. in 22nd. Edwards going to have a little bit fresher tires though, so we'll see how that'll work out. Jeff Gordon in the 24 car leads on the restart. The first time I believe Gordon has led today as we have just 43 laps to go. Following caution number 6. The good news is that Dale Jr. is in front of Edwards. I don't know if he can hold on in front of him with the damage and a little bit worn out tires, I'm sure, after that wreck. Okay, one car almost got squeezed into the wall. Caution. So Dale Jr. can make an adjustment now and he can pit for tires. Martin Truex Jr. sheds a piece of debris, bringing out caution number 7. So we're one caution shy of the... A couple guys also ran over debris there. Jr. ran it over, and then I think even Carl Edwards might have ran it over. One of the cars behind him did. But Jr. got a pit anyway. It looks like Jr. might have cut a tire because of that. But that caution was not on him, so he could pit for fueler tires this time. And try to loosen the car up a little bit is going to be the plan. So they're going to put the 4 pounds of air pressure into the car, which is where it was in practice initially. Obviously, top off on fuel. Is going to take a half a round of wedge out of the car as well. So a few adjustments right now in the 8 car to try and loosen it up, and hopefully it's not going to be too loose. We're going to have less than 40 laps to go on the restart, so I don't know. Yeah, right front tire was down after running over the debris from Truex anyways. We have an invisible person changing our left rear tire. That was weird. Oh, jeez. I don't know how Dale Jr. is not DNF today. And the fact that Carl Edwards pitted a couple cautions ago, at least Junior's got equal tires as Edwards now. Maybe a lap better, but I don't think one lap is going to make much of a difference there. Green flag back in the air. Junior falls back now to 28th. Very few cars that are a lap down. 39 laps to go on the restart. Still don't think the debris cautions are done yet. Got to get going. Hopefully the adjustments on the 8 car is going to be enough. He hasn't made any adjustments during the race. All the adjustments were made prior to qualifying from practice. Three in, nearly 4 wide towards the front of the field right now. Restarts starting to get hectic like they were at the end of the Busch race now that we're towards the end of this Cup Series race. That is definitely going to slow those guys down. Tony Stewart got to the lead on the restart. He is pulling away from everybody else with everybody going 2, 3, and maybe even 4 wide behind him. I know Dale Jr. definitely doesn't take off well on the restarts, that's for certain. Tony Stewart is pulling away. Yeah, Truex is not going to block for Dale Jr. right now. And Waltrip's only a few positions ahead of Earnhardt, so it's probably not worth trying to have him block. Well, I guess we'll try to get Waltrip to fall back a little bit. Dale Jr. able to catch up in the draft as he gets to the... Oh, man, Shane Meal with a big block that time as they go into turns 1 and 2. Dale Jr. gets by Michael Waltrip for 27th. Just gets underneath Shane Meal in the back straightaway. Little side draft on the 0-8 of Meal that time into turns 3 and 4. Oh, one car in the wall off turn 4. Looked like Scott Wimmer got squeezed as he was 3 wide on the outside. A lot of stacking up going on into turns 1 and 2. 3 wide for Jeff Burton in the 31. Dale Jr. going 4 wide to the inside through turns 1 and 2. He's up to 23rd. Carl Edwards just in front of him right now. Who pitted on the second to last caution. Jr. pitted under the most recent yellow. My goodness. 4 wide again. Jr. just got to follow Carl Edwards through it there. All those cars that both Edwards and Jr. got by were all lapped down except for one, which I believe was Travis Kvapil. Then Kenny Schrader as well was on the lead lap. Dale Jr. underneath Carl Edwards for a spot. Clear for 19th off of turn 2. Edwards trying to fight back though on the outside. Jr. and Edwards battling for the regular season championship. 100 points between the two with Edwards in front coming into the race today. 3 wide pass through 3 and 4. Jr. making up a little bit of ground on fresher tires despite all the carnage endured in this one. To the inside of Dale Jarrett entering turn 1. We'll contact. Jr. getting a little tight. Moves into Jarrett. Oh my gosh. Got a little tight again there. Hopefully Dale Jr. can just get away from the 88 car, because I think he's probably going to try to turn him if he gets a chance. And Jr. is easily clear off turn 4 by a few car lengths at least, and he's close enough to draft in front of one of the Evernham Dodges in front of him. Either Jeremy Mayfield or Casey Kane. How quickly can Carl Edwards get through this field in comparison to Dale Jr.? Can anybody catch Tony Stewart, who really pulled away with everybody battling for position on the restarts? And potentially some of those lap cars might have held up the lead lap cars, as Stewart might have had just a much better restart to get by the lap cars, and that was good enough for him to pull away. Jr. getting squeezed by Mayfield, who was on the outside of him, but got some blocks going on in front of Dale Jr. Vickers also simultaneously blocking the 8 car. Into turns 1 and 2. Jr. clears Mayfield for 16th. Trying to dive underneath the 25 of Vickers. He is there. Side drafts Vickers off turn 2. Drafts behind Boris Said. Bottom lane back straightaway. Vickers down to take the air off the right rear spoiler of the 88 car. I almost said the 81. 3 wide off turn 4. Earnhardt just got the left sides down to the apron. Held on to it underneath Said. Contact on the front stretch. That really slowed Jr. down, making the contact. He was just trying to side draft him. He got into him, and that actually cost him a spot to Kyle Busch, who was up high. He was risking it every time he gets those tires down on the apron. How will this car hold up on the long run with this setup that he has not ran the entire race weekend? Definitely trying to get it a little edgier. Gets by Borisset through 3 and 4. Hooked the bottom well that time, even in the dirty air behind Kyle Busch. He'll get by McMurray on the front stretch for 12, so Dale Jr. back inside the top dozen. And we don't even know who's led the most laps today between Dale Jr. and Carl Edwards, especially. I would think Jr. has led the most, but if not, I think Edwards will. Bonus points important for this regular season championship battle. Jeff Gordon, by the way, has gotten around Tony Stewart. Can he pull away, or will the draft from those other cars be enough to keep other drivers in? If they keep battling for the lead, though, that could allow Dale Jr. to close in himself. Dale Jr. underneath Kyle Busch, but Busch is drafted behind Sadler in the tri-oval. Still 28 laps to go. Going into turns 1 and 2. Kyle Busch checking up just a tad. Dale Jr. with a little bump draft to Busch. It didn't hit him too square. Luckily, Busch held on to it. Long straightaways, you can kind of get away with bump drafting here. Got to be very careful with it. Jr. was just careful enough. That launched Busch by Sadler and also allowed for Dale Jr. to get by the 38 as well. It's 2.3 seconds off the race lead in 11th. Pack of cars battling for position just up ahead that Kyle Busch and Dale Jr. are trying to close in on. Busch outside the cutoff line coming into the race today, as well as Elliott Sadler. Busch should be able to get to potentially 12th in points after Ryan Newman and Kevin Harvick blew engines earlier in the race and have not come back out on the racetrack since. 26 laps to go in Fontana. Under the lights. 500-mile race in the California 500. Dale Jr. to the inside of Kyle Busch for 10th place. Jr.'s only led based off strategy today. That's been it, but he just does not have the straightaway speed with the damage to the car following multiple accidents. He's been involved in not one, not two, not three, but 4 accidents today. And after multiple wrecks, can he win this race? Struggling to get by Kyle Busch right now. He's faster in the corners than Busch, but he's not faster than him down the straightaways. Three wide, just up ahead into turn 3. Other cars in the back half of the top 10. I don't know that the share drafts, I mean, I can only really do it in the corners. It's different from Daytona Talladega where you can go full throttle all the way around the track. I mean, you still kind of have to manage the throttle a little bit, but it's different there. Engines are restricted. It's kind of a governor on them if you think about it. Contact up ahead. I think Rusty Wallace might have just grazed the back bumper of Jimmy Johnson in the middle of 3 and 4. Nothing major. I still don't think we've seen the last debris caution, or last caution in general. I'd be shocked if we go green these final 39 laps after that last restart, knowing how big that last wreck was. Probably the biggest of the race. Ryan Newman fan 6, welcome into the stream. Kyle Busch has caught his teammate Jimmy Johnson for a spot, trying to get around the California native. Busch to the inside of Johnson, and Dale Jr. to the inside of both of them. 3 wide goes Earnhardt. Clears them both. What a move by Dale Jr. to move to 9th. Busch took the run down to the inside of the 48. They stalled each other out with just enough of a side draft that Dale Jr. was able to get around both drivers. What a pass. Jeff Green hanging on for right now. Rusty Wallace blocking Dale Jr. on the back straightaway as well. Into turns 3 and 4. Contact with Rusty Wallace. Jr. power slides in the middle of the corner after the contact, hangs on to it. And back in the draft behind the 2 in the tri-oval. Slowed the momentum down to the 8 car, though, that time on the front stretch. He's got to get back into it again. Johnson gets back by Bush. Got Junior a little arrow loose. Up the track goes the 8. And the 48 down low, looking to make the pass on Earnhardt. And he's getting a draft off of Bobby Labonte at the tail end of that pack in front of him. Junior back in the draft behind Jimmy Johnson for now. Kyle Busch with a deep dive into turns 1 and 2, but he can't get around the 8 that time. Junior stays in front of him, held on to the bottom well behind the 48 as well. 2.5 seconds off the lead. Jeff Gordon leads it. A lot of Hendrick Chevys up here inside the top 11, 3 of the 5 to be exact. Bit of a power slide getting into turns 3 and 4 for Dale Jr. Right in line behind Johnson. Side by side between Bobby Labonte and Rusty Wallace. That gives Johnson a big run in the tri-oval. Junior a little bit tight. In traffic that time. Johnson gets by Wallace. May get underneath the 18 of Bobby Labonte. Tough to tell for sure. Hasn't been able to do it yet, at least. Dale Jr. underneath Wallace. Good run in the middle of 3 and 4 for Dale Earnhardt Jr. He has cleared Rusty Wallace back for 9th again. And he's underneath Bobby Labonte in the tri-oval as he drafts behind the 48. The 2 hops in line behind the 8, seeing the inside line moving really well. Johnson has not won a race yet this season. The California native would love to get that first win towards the end of the regular season. Come chase time, he doesn't have to worry about it. Look at Junior getting really loose off turn 2. He stayed in the gas, drove out of it. Rusty down to the outside. Labonte pulls down low behind Earnhardt into turns 3 and 4 to hopefully get around the 2. Dale Jr. now to the inside of Casey Kane for a position. Junior trying to almost follow the 48 car because Johnson's making a lot of passes all of a sudden. Once Junior caught up to the 48, it's like he lit a fire up under the 48 car, and he's starting to make passes on his own right now. I don't think Junior could get up to the front without drafting help, knowing the lack of straightaway speed. He has gotten by Kane for 7th, and he is 1.9 seconds off the lead. Jeff Green, the 43 car, might be holding up this entire pack, which has also allowed for Johnson and Earnhardt to get through it as well as they have. Jimmy looking low. Earnhardt got a little bit loose that time off turn 4. Maybe arrow loose with the 9 of Casey Kane behind him. Junior on the inside of the 43 of Jeff Green follows Jimmy Johnson up to 6th as Dale Jr. Still well ahead of Carl Edwards, who's outside the top 10. This 48 car is a rocket ship right now. He may end up catching his teammate Jeff Gordon. I guess if anybody's got the speed to get to the 24 car, it's going to be another Hendrick Chevrolet. 15 laps to go at the line this time by. Yeah, Jeff Green having a solid run in 7th for sure. Junior a little tight in the dirty air again behind Jimmy Johnson. Halfway on field, definitely good to the end after topping off under that last pit stop. And I will say Earnhardt seems a bit better in turns 3 and 4 than 1 and 2. Johnson's closing in slowly but surely on Kurt Busch. 48 and the 8 just kind of working together here. Junior's having a hard time trying to hang on to this race car. It's crazy how edgy it is. He gets tucked up in line behind the 48 car, though, and it doesn't want to turn either. He's too loose from middle exit. On corner entry, though, it's almost like it's a little too tight. Johnson's starting to lose a little bit of ground as well. He might have used up all of his stuff. Junior and Johnson haven't really been able to pull away from those cars back behind him yet either. Dale Jr. trying to stay in front of the 9 of Casey Kane. It's not really working out. Kane on the inside of Dale Jr. Jr. trying to block the 9 car into turns 3 and 4. Jr. may have gotten arrow loose that time behind the... Not behind the 48, but mainly because the 9 car of Casey Kane was right there. Johnson down low. Allowing Jr. to draft there behind him. Jr. looks low. Oh, he got into Jimmy. Up to 5th. I wonder if Junior might be able to pull away from these cars back behind him. I wouldn't think he's got the straightaway speed to be able to do that, but I guess you never know. Dale Jr. blocking the heck out of Casey Kane in the 9 right now. Through 3 and 4. Kane gonna get the 8 arrow loose. Jr. can't hang on to it. Up the track. Oh, man. Huge wreck. Up and over goes Dale Jr. on the front stretch. Oh, man. That one did him in. Terrible crash off turn 4. Caution is out. Caution is out, and there goes the chances of Dale Jr. winning the regular season title. He got arrow loose with Casey Kane behind him. And a big hit on the front straightaway, resulting in yet another caution tonight. I didn't know who to swap to there. I didn't know who was higher in the order between Waltrip or Truex. We'll pit with Martin Truex Jr. I think Truex may be a lap down, though. Waltrip could be a lap down also. I'm not entirely sure. Ouch. Well, the car was definitely edgier. It was quicker with the... I mean, that was the only way he was able to really even get up to 5th in the first place. But Junior didn't do anything wrong there. The car was... It was already edgy, and then the 9 was close enough behind him. He got him arrow loose. Dale Jr. is not likely to win the regular season championship now. The only chance he has is if Carl Edwards DNFs before the end of this race as well, which I don't think is going to really happen. Third DNF of the year for Dale Jr. Well, it did get worse. It did. Green flag back in the air. 9 laps to go. Truex is actually 2 laps down, so it's more like 7 laps to go in this race. We're going to go to Michael Waltrip right now. What the heck happened there? Jeff Burt just ran right in the back of Waltrip. He was trying to get up to speed through turns 1 and 2. Waltrip's been involved in a few cautions today of his own. In fact, he's gotten in 3 of the 4, well, make that 5 wrecks now. Oh, man, Shane Meal just ran right into the 15. Up the track he goes. Goodness gracious. No caution for that. He continued to stay green. 6 laps left. Meal was down on the apron going into the corner. Waltrip, I was looking at the replay on my laptop there. Might as well go back to Truex again. So much for that. Good Lord. Can't even get a lap in. Well, okay, we got a lap in, but we got another yellow. Oh, jeez. I swapped to him in the middle of the corner, and the one just got tight. What a wreck fest. This is like almost a carbon copy of what happened in the Busch race. Just about. There's some debris laying on the track under the caution as well. AMR safety team will come and pick that up. Every DEI car has problems this race. Yeah, it does seem like that, doesn't it? Anita Luna, welcome into the stream. 9 laps away from closing on car. I know. I mean, Edwards was outside the top 10, too. Earnhardt was in 5th, and Casey Kane just got him arrow loose. I don't think he got into us. I mean, we were in the in-car cam. He could have hit us, but knowing I got arrow loose a couple other times in the race today with less edgier setups. Earnhardt could still finish as high as 2nd in the regular season title. Well, the problem is Gordon's 3rd. He's leading, and maybe even Gordon's got a shot at the regular season title himself yet. He's likely going to move into 2nd. He's leading the race late. May have a shot, you never know. Green flag back in the air. Tony Stewart actually leading on the restart this go-around. And I believe we have just 2 laps to go. Go wait to get up to speed, and then I'll swap to Waltrip here. See how many spots we can get out of Mikey before the end of this race yet. Oh, we got a... Jesus! Oh, Waltrip blew a tire. That's what happened. Oh, my goodness. Michael Waltrip just blew a tire, and that's going to cause the caution. That might end the race. I don't know if somebody shedded some debris down and then Waltrip ran it over on the back straightaway, but Waltrip blew a tire right in the middle of us transferring to him and get another caution. I've lost count of how many yellows we've had all of a sudden late in this race. Poor John Andretti got caught up in it. He was on the inside of Waltrip and Waltrip blew the left front tire middle of the back straightaway and went around. So this is either going to force a green-white checker finish, or this is going to be the end of the race. Done this race under yellow. Sometimes we get a chance at a green-white checkered, sometimes we don't. I don't think that was our first attempt, though, because I feel like that was a natural restart with 2 to go. So we might still get one more, but we might not. We'll see. If I pit, I only lost 1 position to Andretti with Waltrip. He was outside the top 20 points anyway, so it's not like it matters too much. He'll be at MWR next season anyway. It's not saving his job. Paul Menard will be in that car next year. Oh, and now we have problems on pit road. Left rear tire changer on the 15 team trying to get that lug nut secured. Well, good thing there's no more 2-mile tracks this year. Dale Jr. is DNF'd at Michigan and California in the last 3 races. And 1 more super speedway yet at Talladega. When we get through that, we have no more tracks over 2 miles in length. Checkered flag is going to be in the air this time. And that is it. So the race does end under caution. I actually stayed in front of Andretti. He must have been a lap down, so I guess pitting didn't cost Waltrip any spots. Kurt Busch is going to win today's race. He got to the lead right before that yellow flag waved on the back straightaway, and he probably had help from Greg Biffle as well. Take a look at the finishing results to today's race. Kurt Busch ends up finishing again with the win. Second win of the season for Kurt. He came in above the cutoff line, 9th in points. That is a major win in him trying to make the chase. Led 26 laps along the way. Greg Biffle, his teammate, finishes second. 1-2 finish for Roush Fenway Racing today. And Biffle ends up with 18 laps led. Tony Stewart finishes in third, 26 laps led. Jimmy Johnson and Rocket Ship at the end kind of stalled out there, finished in fourth with no laps led. Case Kane rounds out the top 5, finishing fifth. Bobby Labonte ends up in 6th, Rusty Wallace 7th, Jeff Green with a solid run in 8th place. Dale Jarrett led 12 laps en route to finishing 9th, and Elliott Sadler rounds out the top 10. Also came in below the cutoff line, 11th in points, solid day for him. Carl Edwards finished 13th, leading 57 laps in today's race. It was 5 bonus points, so that tells me Dale Jr. led the most laps today off his strategy call, but unfortunately DNF'd. And 27 cars finished on the lead lap, with Waltrip being the last of which. John Andretti, first car, 1 lap down. Martin Truex Jr. finished 2 laps down at 35th. And then Dale Jr. on back, DNF. Jr. led 79 laps today and finishing 36th. 10 laps away from Oh, wow, Jeff Gordon was in that wreck too, I think. So Jeff Gordon also got caught up in that big accident at the end of the race. Or something happened to him because he dropped out. And he was 3rd in points, so I think Carl Edwards just clinched the regular season championship. I think. So Earnhardt might still be in 2nd at least, so I guess that works. I mean, we still can be the number 2 seed. And Richmond's probably my best track on this game, that New Hampshire. Those are the next 2 races. But one more race left in the regular season yet. Mike Bliss DNF. That is tough for him. Look at all the chase drivers at DNF. All the drivers in the top 13 in points at DNF. Dale Jr., Jeff Gordon, Matt Kenseth, Mike Bliss, Ryan Newman, Kevin Harvick. 6 drivers inside the top 13 in points DNF'd. And 4 drivers in the top 8 in points DNF'd today, including 2nd and 3rd. Mark Martin was inside the top 20 points, but no shot of making the chase anyway coming in. He DNF'd as well as Jimmy Spencer on lap 20, Balloon Engine finishing last. Margin of victory was well under caution. 3 hours and 40 minutes to get today's race in. 10 cautions for 28 caution laps, 31 lead changes, average race speed of 136.22 miles an hour. All right, we're going to check out the point standings going into Richmond next week. Chevy Rock and Roll 400 at Richmond will be the next race. We'll see if Carl Edwards has clinched the regular season championship. A race early tonight was 2nd and 3rd place in points DNFing. Even though Edwards didn't have a great day, he led a lot of laps, but finished 13th. That late call for him pitting, losing that track position, couldn't quite get up through the field like Junior. And so Junior actually loses 2 spots in points still to Tony Stewart and Greg Biffle. Biffle up to P3 now, gains 2 spots as well. Jeff Gordon falls from 3rd to 6th in points. So Dale Jr. still has a shot at 2nd, but he's too many points out to catch Edwards. Carl Edwards has not clinched the regular season championship yet. Technically going into Richmond, it'll be between Edwards, Stewart, and Biffle for the regular season championship. You can score up to 190 points in a race, but you can only outscore somebody by 156 points. So by that, Greg Biffle, Tony Stewart still have a shot, as well as Carl Edwards. So Edwards did not clinch today, with Biffle finishing 2nd and Tony Stewart finishing 3rd. So Edwards finishing outside the top 10 cost him from trying to clinch the title today. If Dale Jr. could have just had that top 5, he would probably be less than 70 points back going into the regular season finale at one of his best tracks, on a track he won at earlier this year, but unfortunately it's too little too late. Our goal is to finish 2nd in the regular season title. We've got a good shot at that. We're only 22 points behind Stewart. If I can lead the most laps and win the race, Tony Stewart has to finish 3rd or worse. We'll finish 2nd. And obviously we'll beat Biffle as well. So if we lead the most laps, win the race, and Tony Stewart finishes 3rd or worse, we will finish 2nd. So if we finish 2nd, we'll only be 5 points behind Edwards when we start the chase. If I finish 4th, I'll be 15 points behind him. And if we end up having a bad finish somehow at Richmond, then I could be as far back as 6th, which would be 25 points out of the lead with 5 cars between us. So yeah, we can still finish 2nd. That's not terrible. I mean, obviously it's not bad. Be the 2 seed going in. We'll look at the chase standings here. Here's the big battle, though. The cutoff line going in. Kevin Harvick and Ryan Newman have eliminated themselves today with engine failures. Kyle Busch finished just outside the top 10 today, also eliminated. He's very close to 12th in points with the 2 DNFs in front of him, but didn't actually pass him. So only Sadler is the driver below the cutoff line who can actually get his way into the chase off of points. Nobody else can. And again, wins don't qualify yourself for the chase. Gonna get the calculator out here, see who is all locked in. I know the top 6 are locked in. Let me get the calculator. Oh, jeez, I just knocked the controller over. Need to find my phone. All right, so gonna check out, see who is mathematically locked in. Matt Kenseth to, how many points was it back to Sadler? 647. So Matt Kenseth is locked in. Mike Bliss is not, but he's very close. So everybody from Matt Kenseth in points on up is locked in, even with Kenseth's DNF, because Sadler finished 10th. If he would have finished a little bit higher up, then he would not have been locked in today. But even with the top 10 today, Sadler closes the gap, but just isn't quite able to close it too much yet. So Mike Bliss is 151 points above the cutoff line. As long as Mike Bliss finishes 41st or better, even if Elliott Sadler wins and leads the most laps, Mike Bliss will be in the chase. So 41st or better for Mike Bliss is all he has to finish. Kurt Busch is about 117 points ahead. So he's going to have to, as long as Kurt Busch has a top 10, he should be in as well with these. Maybe even a top 15, top 20, as long as Sadler doesn't, just run the best race of his career and dominate and win Richmond. I think Kurt Busch will be in a good spot. Bobby Labonte, on the other hand, very, very tight window for him. Sadler closed in with that top 10 today. I think Labonte had a top 10 too, though, so they actually didn't really close the gap too much. And I think Bobby actually beat Sadler and opened up the gap a little bit, if anything. 42 points is the difference right now between Bobby Labonte and Elliott Sadler. Yeah, Michael, I know Kenseth's your favorite driver, so you're probably glad seeing that. So our goal, dominate Richmond. Tony Stewart finishes 3rd or worse. We'll finish 2nd in points at the end of the regular season. The main battle we're going to keep an eye on when Richmond comes next week is Elliott Sadler. Can he get into the chase? If Bobby Labonte, Kurt Busch, if they DNF, they're not going to make it. I mean, it's plain and simple. If they DNF, Elliott Sadler's probably going to finish well enough to outpoint them both. As long as he finishes top 20 with a DNF by Kurt Busch, he'll get in. Top 30 with a DNF out of Bobby Labonte, he'll get in. Mike Bliss, if he DNFs, as long as he finishes 41st or better, Bliss will be in. And the miracle season for that Haas automation team is going to continue. I think this is their first year in the Cup Series, and they are competing with the big dogs. Unbelievable. But tough night tonight nonetheless. So even if Bliss DNFs, he's got a good shot of making it 41st or better. As long as he's not one of the first cars to DNF, and then Sadler again doesn't finish in the top, really, 3. All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. Like and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. I will see you guys tomorrow afternoon for the NASCAR Cup Series race at Richmond. Live race commentary will begin at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow afternoon. Hope to see you then. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys. Have a good rest of your Saturday night. Enjoy the truck race.